Cincinnati and head coach Tommy Tuberville. The Bearcats are 1-1 overall, 0-1 in the American. Cincinnati was in action this past Saturday against Temple. Temple won the game 34-26. Up next for the Bearcats will be this Saturday at Miami, Ohio, as the schools renew their rivalry for the Victory Bell. That will be a 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time start, and the game will be played on ESPN3. Coach, thank you for joining us on the call this week. If you could take a minute to tie up the game against Temple and tell us what you expect to see as you take to the road to face Miami, Ohio, please.
Yeah, anxious to get back to Praxville on Tuesday. We take Mondays off. Obviously, Temple played better than we did, coached better than we did. We just didn't. We couldn't put it together. We had moments where we looked like a good football team, and we had moments that we didn't look like a good football team, offense, defense, and special teams. Giving up too many points, giving too many giveaways. You have to give credit to the defense from Temple. They made plays when they had to. They took advantage of their mistakes that we made on offense, and it was just one of those games where they basically were better than us going in, all throughout the game in terms of takeaways and taking advantage. So we go back to the drawing board. We've got our rival game against Miami of Ohio this week. We're fairly good shape on injuries. We've got some guys beat up a little bit, but I don't foresee any problems there. Miami of Ohio is 1-1, coming off of a loss to Wisconsin. It'll be our first road game. Fortunately, it's not too far from here, just down the road. So rival games are usually good to get back in, get mentally prepared, because it's always a hard fight. We've been the favorite the last 2 years and really had to fight hard to get the victory because it is a rival game. So looking forward to getting back to Praxville, working on mistakes, and getting on to the next game. Questions?
We'll take questions for Coach Tuberville. Please star 1 on your telephone to join the queue, and then the operator will introduce you.
And we'll go first to Shannon Green of the Orlando Sentinel.
Morning, Coach. What is the challenge of getting such a tough conference opponent so early into the season?
Well, they had to play us as well as we play them. You got to get ready to play, and it was kind of like our first game. Our first game was more of a scrimmage that we won fairly easy. This was really our first game to get an idea of where we're at on offense, defense, and it was a tough assignment. But Temple played a very hard-fought, tough game against Penn State, beat them pretty handedly. So we didn't go into this game thinking that, hey, we were the better team. We knew we had to go in and play well. It was a very close game the year before, and we were fortunate to come out on top of that one. But, it puts us behind the 8 ball. We understand that. We've been there for the last couple of years, having to fight our way back to have a chance to win the conference championship. So we still got a lot to play for, but the main thing we've got to do is we've got to get better. We can't beat a whole lot of teams the way we're playing right now by making mistakes. And we've got to work it out coaching-wise, playing-wise, get the right people in the game. So this will be the first really game that we're coming out of that we'll make changes in terms of knowing now strengths and weaknesses. So very critical game for us this week to get back and playing well and getting everybody playing in the right frame of mind, after coming out of a tough-fought game.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go next to Bill Cook of GoBearcats.com.
Tommy, you kind of statistically dominated that game against Temple, and yet had to rally at the end to make it close. Obviously, the turnovers hurt you. But is it your thought that if you can erase the turnovers, that you saw a lot of good things, or what are the pluses and minuses that you just
Well, we had some physical turnovers, and then we had some mental ones. You're going to have the physical turnovers. Guys trying to get things done, tip balls. They were in the right position. A lot of times, tip balls are not intercepted. You can write that up as being a game. But the mental ones, you've got to eliminate, both on offense, defense, and special teams. We had 2 mental mistakes on special teams. One, the onside kick, where we had a young guy just absolutely come out too early. And then 2 missed tackles and a safety that was actually really over pursued. And, they were all effort mistakes. They weren't mistakes that they weren't doing their job. A lot of these young guys sometimes have to understand you can't be overly aggressive, especially in situations, in those two situations. But the turnovers, Gunner will be the first to tell you he threw in the coverage twice. He shouldn't have done it. And you see quarterbacks, and I saw quarterbacks all day on Saturday, last two Saturdays playing night games, doing the same thing. Now, you can go one way or the other. You can eliminate them or you can make them worse. And we got a quarterback that's very aggressive. He's a lot like the quarterbacks have been here in the past. Sometimes they think they can do more than what they should. And you got to rely on your other teammates. And you can't do it all. And quarterbacks, obviously, mistakes really glare because they have the ball in their hand every time. Gunner is a good quarterback, but he can't make too many mistakes. You're going to make some, but you can't put your team in too many bad situations in tough games like that. You can get by with some games, but a game like that we're playing, you got to be a little bit more conservative. So learning situation for Gunner. Again, it was the first contest of the year really for him. He only played 20 plays the week before. He played well most of the time, but most of the time doesn't work when you're playing teams that are as good as you. So he's got to play better. We got to coach him better, and we got to give him some help on the other teams. And we can't compound mistakes by making foolish mistakes like we did on special teams.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go next to Tom Gresham of the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Hey, Coach. In terms of the special teams, with you had the kickoff return and the onside kick, a couple of things you mentioned. That's been an area of concern, I know, for you for really since you've been here. What do you do now? How do you rectify things, make changes, or what do you do?
Yeah, we try to we've got a lot of good athletes on the team now that hadn't played a lot, and so we're trying to. It's a long season, and you try to keep your linebackers and your wide receivers and your DBs that we're limited with in some areas that have experience, trying to keep them to where they can concentrate on offense and defense. And there's going to be some areas that we're going to have to play more experienced guys that's just going to have to play 10 or 15 more reps in a game. We're going to have to do it because, experience really plays out for you at every position, whether it's special teams, offense, or defense. And the two special teams mistakes were by three kids that's never played. They've played football before, but they've never been in an actual tough situation. And they took advantage of it. And, again, it wasn't that they weren't giving effort. It was basically they were over effort. When you covering a kick, sometimes you got to make sure you stay in your lane. You've got contained. You do the things right in terms of your coverage responsibility. So I got no problem with that. It's just we're going into this situation now. We've got to put guys in there that's done it before. That's just going to have to play more. I'm trying to play more players to try to lengthen the season where guys can be a little bit fresher. But that situation got us in a little bit of a problem the other night, obviously, with the two situations on special teams.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go next to Dick Weiss of the American Conference.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good morning.
I just wanted to ask you about the league itself and the fact that it looks like it's becoming more competitive top to bottom this year.
Yeah, I told people at Media Day that there's not you can take about 8 teams in our league, and there's not a touchdown difference. Now everything's starting to play out, and everybody's starting to see, Houston's got a good football team. Navy's got a good football team. East Carolina's much better, even though they did graduate a lot of good players off their team.
Mm-hmm.
Temple is much improved. So, there's a lot of good teams out there. Now, the distinguished from good to great, that's going to pan out as we go through the season. But there's a lot of good football players in this conference. It's very competitive, and it's showing, playing some of these so-called Power 5 teams, which a lot of our teams are better than a lot of those teams anyway. So it's really a good comparison as we go through the season.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom.
Yes.
And any other questions for Coach Tuberville, please? Coach, well, thank you for your time today. We look forward to talking to you again next Monday. And that is Coach Tommy Tuberville.